In 3 weeks, I'm running a 50K ultramarathon. Aren't you a cyclist? This guy's officially an idiot. And then the very next day, I'll be racing a 100-mile gravel race known as the Mid-South in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I'm racing the event called the Double because it takes the combined time of both the 50K run and the 100-mile race and smacks them together, and it's my goal to win this category. You want to win a race that you've never done before? Wow, that's bold. I've always enjoyed running as a form of cross-training for my cycling, and especially with cyclocross being my main discipline of racing, running actually turns out to be a really good asset to have in your back pocket on those rare occasions where mud just inevitably makes you have to run a huge part of the course. But my relationship with running really took off when I was training for the 2012 Cyclocross World Championships being held that year in Coxide, Belgium. If you're a fan of cyclocross, you know Coxide. It's one of the most famous courses in history. I believe that year at Cyclocross Worlds, it had the largest spectator crowd at 63,000 fans there just to watch a cyclocross race. But what makes this course so famous is its insane amount of sand. On this 2-mile circuit, you are forced to get off and run multiple times, and most courses just have a sand pit. This place is on a beach, and so running becomes a huge asset, especially at this race. At this time, I was at the top of the 17-18 juniors category, and the year before I had finished 21st at the World Championships, and so I had set a pretty big goal of trying to crack the top 10 at that year's World Championships. And fortunately, I had a chance to go to Europe, to Coxide, and race the Coxide World Cup in November that year before the World Championships about 3 months. Unfortunately, I only finished about 30th place in the World Cup, and my biggest weakness? Running. I came home after that trip with a renewed motivation to increase my running ability. At that point on, I started waking up an hour earlier just so that I could run to the high school, do a bleachers workout, and run home, all before my bus picked me up for high school at 6:30 a.m. Wow, you were waking up at 5:30 a.m. to go run bleachers before you went to school as a high schooler? What happened? And 3 months later at the World Championships, I didn't quite accomplish my goal of top 10, but I finished 14th, which is quite a big improvement from my previous results, and I was pretty happy with that in the long run. And just for the record, Vanderpool finished first and Van Aert was second. It was a pretty stacked field. And ever since that season, I've maintained a pretty strong running regimen within my cyclocross training. And again, this paid off at the Elite Cyclocross Nationals in 2018, hosted right here in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. If you were there, you remember how crazy the Mudfest was that day. We had to run just about half the course, and I was able to run my way from outside the top 10 into 4th place, which is my best Elite Cyclocross Nats result. It's pretty sad that your best cycling result is in a race that only made you ride your bike for half the time. To most people, this seems like a pretty stupid thing to do if my main sport is still just cycling. On a scale of 1 to stupid, this is stupid. And maybe they're right, but I'm going to do it anyways, and here's why. I've been racing bikes for a long time. I've raced just about all there is to race. Mountain bike, cyclocross, gravel, road. And it's come to the point now where there's not this new and exciting thing that I'm doing. At this point, I'm an experienced racer. I don't get scared when I sign up for an event in the sense that I know what to expect because I've done it before. So doing something out of the ordinary, like maybe running a 50K ultramarathon, brings along all these exciting and scary emotions because I've literally never ran that far before. I don't know how my legs are going to feel when I hit 26.2 miles and still have 6 more miles to go. That's exciting. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably saying, well, you're probably going to hinder your cycling performance by doing this goofy goal. Well, I'd like to make the complete opposite argument. I think this is going to improve my cycling performance, and here's why. Nah, you're probably never going to be able to ride your bike again, if you ask me. The race is in March, which means I'll only really have to focus on running from December to March, and then after the event, I can go back to focusing completely on my cycling. And don't forget, I'm not completely dropping my cycling training throughout this period because I have to race the 100-mile gravel race the very next day. Typically, this time of the year is when riders focus on base training, which means developing your aerobic engine. And running is an aerobic exercise. So while my cycling volume may decrease, my overall training volume will increase. And luckily, my heart doesn't care if I'm riding or running. It's getting stronger either way. So I'm hoping, or was hoping, that if I were to just increase my weekly training volume by 10%, then when this is all said and done, I will have done a better job at improving my base training. Alright, let's not just make up random numbers here, buddy. Actually, according to Strava, my overall training volume for the month of January has increased 35% since last year. In 2021, I did a total of 40 hours of training. This year, in 2022, I've done a total of 54 hours of training. I'd say that the plan is working out pretty successfully so far. So here's the tricky part. I've only ever run a half marathon before, so how in the world am I going to run 32 miles in 12 weeks? Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. Is it any more complicated than that? So here's my thinking. I'm an endurance athlete, so I'm very used to doing long aerobic bouts of exercise. And if I can hold my goal of 7-minute pace throughout this 32-mile run, I'll be able to complete it in less than 4 hours. 4 hours of endurance exercise is not that big of a deal, but 4 hours of running might not be so easy. Running is definitely harder on your body, and I'm not as efficient of a runner as I am a rider. So doing 4 hours of running is definitely not the same as doing 4 hours of riding, but regardless, I still think that my aerobic capacity can handle this. But what worries me, and my wife, and my friends, and pretty much anybody else who knows I'm doing this event, is if my body can handle the intensity and the beating that running requires. Foreshadowing, it can't. For the running portion of my training, I referred to Matt Fitzgerald's, no surprise there, Brain Training for Runners. In this book, he lays out a system called the target pace level, where basically you go to this huge chart, and on this chart it shows different race distances. On this chart, you would find your goal time for your race distance. It only goes up to a marathon, so I went to the 3-hour marathon sector, which puts me at a TPL number 26. I then go to another chart, find my TPL number 26, and it lays out all my target paces, and then I can use those target paces to do the workouts that Matt Fitzgerald suggests in his book. Target pace level is very similar to how we use FTP to create our training zones within cycling. However, Fitzgerald's running plan for a marathon consists of 24 weeks. I only have 12, so I had to improvise a little bit. And since I'm coming into the training with a little bit of running background, I went ahead and skipped the first couple preparation weeks, which were really just to build some fitness, and jumped into the first intense block, which required on Tuesdays to be doing hill climb sprints, and Thursdays I was doing fartleks. Throughout this entire training regimen, I was doing my long endurance runs on Saturdays. After this, I then moved into a build 1 phase where I was doing 400-meter sprints on Tuesdays, 1-mile intervals on Thursdays, a couple times on trail, and then my Saturday runs were being increased from 15 miles to 18 miles and then finishing off with 21 miles. After this, I took a week of recovery and only did some light, low-intensity running, but this is where things went sideways. Up to this point, I was feeling great. All of the workouts in the build 1 phase went just according to plan, and I felt amazing going into build 2. The plan was to do a 3-week build 2 and then a 2-week taper going into the event, with my longest run being 28 miles 3 weeks before the race. But then my IT band decided to show up to the party. During my rest week for running, I was going to Tennessee for a training week on the bike, and I decided to increase my volume a pretty significant amount on the bike, which ended up causing some issues. By the end of the camp, I could feel this little bit of a nagging pain in my left knee, even on the bike, and I thought, well, it's the end of a big volume block, so all I need is a couple days of rest, and this will just go away. After a couple days of rest, I decided to jump back into my running program, which was a 4-mile tempo. I I felt my knee during the workout, but it wasn't that bad. And then at the cool down was when it really flared up and I was walking home the last mile. I decided not to run that weekend and just do some aerobic riding instead. Jump forward a couple more days and I decided to go out for my next tempo run, which was a 5-mile tempo. And although I got through the workout once again, I was limping home once again. And to make things worse, I went out for a 3-hour ride right after that because the weather was so nice and I just couldn't not take advantage of warm weather. And to no surprise, the knee pain got a little bit worse. So here I am, 2 weeks out from the event. I've basically done nothing for the last week. And so now I've finally accepted the reality that I'm not going to be able to train the way that I wanted to leading up to this big event that I put on my calendar. But I'd rather take it easy now and be able to race with low fitness than try to keep training and not be able to race at all. I've never been one to really try and optimize recovery by trying all these different crazy things that are out there because it seems like a lot of these recovery mechanisms haven't exactly been proven to improve performance. But now that I'm injured, it's a little bit of a different story. I find myself trying anything and everything to try to make this thing healthy. I'm stretching, I'm foam rolling, I'm heating it, I'm cooling it. I'm even doing 2 things that I thought I'd never try, and that's CBD balm and a massage gun. Who am I? In hindsight, I've definitely learned a few lessons along the way, and here they are. Number 1, listen to your body. If your knee hurts, then let it rest. Just running through and pushing through these workouts is only going to prolong the injury. Pain is actually a good thing. It lets you know that your body is being injured. Number 2, strength training is pretty important. One reason that I think my IT band has flared up is because of my TFL, or your tensor fascia latae. That is a muscle that connects your hip to your knee, and that's all connected with the IT band, but it's a little muscle right here up in your hip. And I think that if I were to increase my running volume again, I would work on strengthening that one little muscle in my hip. Number 3, do what excites you. If you've got this event that seems kind of crazy and maybe impossible and all your friends are telling you not to do it, just do it anyways. And if you get injured along the way, who cares? At least you're excited about training and racing again. Just in case you didn't get it, there was a hint of sarcasm in that last one. Alright, that's all I've got for this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you're at the Mid-South, come say hi to me or, maybe go cheer me on for the run if I don't die. And thanks for watching.